The summer of 1978 hung heavy over Louisville, Kentucky. The air was thick with humidity, clinging to skin like a damp cloth, as 6-year-old Marcus Johnson kicked a worn soccer ball against the brick wall of his apartment building. His mother, Diane, watched from their third-floor window, a mixture of pride and worry etched across her face. Marcus was a thoughtful child, with eyes that seemed to absorb everything around him, questioning the world in ways that often left adults speechless. If this story has already made you feel something, however small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. The Johnson family lived in the West End of Louisville, not far from where the greatest boxer in the world had grown up. Muhammad Ali was more than a champion to the people of this neighborhood. He was living proof that someone from these streets could shake the world. Stories of Ali's visits home circulated like folklore, each tale adding to the legend of the man who had conquered not just opponents in the ring, but racism and injustice outside of it. On that particular Saturday, Marcus had been pestering his mother with questions about skin color. At school, a white classmate had told him his dark skin made him different, and the word had lodged in Marcus's mind like a splinter. "Why am I different, Mama? What's wrong with being different?" he'd asked that morning, his small face twisted with confusion. Diane had explained as best she could, weaving together words of pride and caution, history and hope. But some questions were too big for simple answers, and Marcus continued to ponder as he played alone in the afternoon heat. The black Cadillac rolled down Grand Avenue slowly, like a ship navigating uncertain waters. Few luxury vehicles ventured into this neighborhood, and heads turned as it passed. When it pulled to a stop near the community center, a crowd began to gather, whispers spreading like wildfire. "It's him, Ali's home." Marcus abandoned his ball and ran toward the commotion, slipping between adults' legs until he found himself at the front of the gathering. And there he was, Muhammad Ali, taller than any man Marcus had ever seen, his presence filling the space around him as if the air itself made way. The boxer moved through the crowd with grace, shaking hands, offering words of encouragement, his famous face breaking into that familiar, wide smile. Adults stammered in his presence, but the children approached with the fearlessness of those who hadn't yet learned to be intimidated by greatness. When Ali's eyes fell on Marcus, something in the boy's intense gaze made the champion pause. He crouched down, bringing himself to the child's level. "What's your name, little brother?" he asked, his voice softer than one might expect from a man who could shake the world with his words. "Marcus," the boy replied, then added with the directness only children possess. "Can I ask you something, Mr. Ali?" The crowd around them quieted, as if collectively holding its breath. Ali nodded, his eyes twinkling with amusement at the child's seriousness. "Why did God make me different?" Marcus asked, his voice small but clear. "My friend Tommy says my skin makes me different. Is different bad?" The question hung in the air. The amusement in Ali's eyes faded, replaced by something deeper, recognition, perhaps of a wound he knew too well. The great champion, known for his quick wit and quicker fists, was momentarily silent. When he finally spoke, those closest would later swear they had seen tears gathering in his eyes. Ali placed his massive hands on Marcus's shoulders, their darkness matching like mirror reflections across generations. For a moment, the greatest boxer in the world seemed to struggle for words, a man who had crafted poetry in the ring and verbal symphonies on television, now searching carefully for the right combination to answer this child's innocent question. "Listen to me, young brother," Ali began, his voice gaining strength. "God made you exactly as you are because you're perfect that way. Your skin isn't what makes you different, it's what makes you magnificent." The crowd had grown silent, parents and children alike leaning forward to catch every word. A golden watch glinted on Ali's wrist as he gestured toward the sky, a $20,000 timepiece that seemed insignificant compared to the wealth of wisdom he was sharing. "I remember asking the same questions when I was about your age," Ali continued, "and I learned something important. Being different isn't something to overcome, it's something to celebrate." Ali reached into the pocket of his custom-tailored suit, rumored to have cost more than $5,000, and pulled out a small mirror. It was no ordinary mirror, its frame inlaid with diamonds that caught the sunlight and scattered it, like stars. He held it up to Marcus's face. "Look at yourself," Ali instructed gently. "That brown skin has a history. Kings and queens with skin like yours built civilizations when Europe was still figuring things out. Scientists, writers, warriors, all. With skin like yours, like mine." Marcus stared at his reflection, seeing himself through new eyes as Ali continued to speak. "They'll tell you being different is a burden, but that's because they don't understand. Being different means you can see things others can't. You can feel things others don't. That's not a weakness. That's a superpower." A sleek Rolls-Royce Phantom drove past the gathering, its driver slowing to observe the scene. The luxury car, worth over $300,000, belonged to one of Ali's business associates, a black entrepreneur who had built an empire from nothing. Ali nodded toward the vehicle. "See that man? He was once a boy like you, asking the same questions. Now he employs hundreds of people who look like us. That's what happens when you understand that different isn't bad, different is valuable." Tears now flowed freely down Ali's cheeks, shocking those who had only seen the champion's strength, never his vulnerability. "I'm crying because I wish someone had told me at your age what I'm telling you now. I had to fight the whole world to learn what you're learning today." Marcus reached up with his small hand and, with the innocent boldness of childhood, wiped a tear from the face of the greatest. "Don't cry, Mr. Ali," he said. "I understand." Ali smiled through his tears. "Do you know why I'm called the greatest?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "Because you win all your fights." "No, little brother, I'm called the greatest because I believed it even when nobody else did. And that's what I want you to do. Every morning, I want you to look in the mirror and say, 'I am great because I am different.'" As Ali spoke these words, he pressed the diamond-studded mirror into Marcus's hands. "This is worth more money than most people see in a year," he said quietly. "But what I'm telling you is worth more than all the diamonds in the world." In the weeks following his encounter with Muhammad Ali, Marcus carried the champion's words everywhere he went, repeating them like a mantra each morning. "I am great because I am different." The diamond mirror stayed on his bedside table, a reminder not of wealth, but of worth. His mother noticed the change in him immediately, a straightening of his shoulders, a newfound confidence in his eyes. School became a different experience for Marcus. When Tommy approached him at recess, prepared to continue his taunting, Marcus responded not with anger, but with the same quiet dignity he had witnessed in Ali. "My skin doesn't make me different," he said calmly. "It makes me magnificent." The words, borrowed from the champion, landed with unexpected impact. By Christmas, Marcus had started a journal where he collected stories of great men and women who looked like him. His teacher, Mrs. Peterson, noticed his growing interest in history and biography and began bringing him books about black inventors, scientists, and leaders. "You remind me of my son," she told him one afternoon, showing him a photograph of a young man in an expensive business suit standing beside a private jet. "He asked the same kinds of questions when he was your age. Now he runs a technology company valued at $30 million. On Marcus's 7th birthday in April of 1979, a package arrived at the Johnson apartment. Inside was a first-edition copy of Ali's autobiography, The Greatest, with a handwritten inscription, "To Marcus, remember our talk. Keep asking questions. Keep finding answers. You are already greater than you know. Muhammad Ali." The book became Marcus's treasure, more valuable to him than any of the platinum-plated championship belts Ali had won. He read it cover to cover, struggling with the big words, but persisting with determination. When he came across photographs of Ali's mansion, a 20-room estate with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, Marcus didn't see them as symbols of wealth, but as evidence of what was possible. Summer brought a special program at the community center, funded by one of Ali's wealthy friends, a hedge fund manager whose personal fortune exceeded $100 million. The program paired children from the neighborhood with successful black professionals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, who volunteered as mentors. Marcus was matched with Dr. James Carter, a neurosurgeon who arrived for their first meeting in Des, a Ferrari worth over $200,000. "Nice car," Marcus commented as they walked toward the community center. Dr. Carter smiled. "It's just a thing, son. The real luxury in my life is getting to do work that matters." During their sessions together, Dr. Carter shared stories of his own childhood in Chicago's South Side, of the obstacles he had overcome, and the mentors who had guided him. "You know what the most important thing is?" he asked Marcus one day. "Believing you belong in any room you enter. Ali taught me that when I met him as a teenager." Marcus's eyes widened. "You know Muhammad Ali, too?" "Many of us do," Dr. Carter replied. "He makes it his business to connect with young people like you, to make sure you understand your value early. He does it quietly, without cameras around." That night, Marcus added a new line to his morning ritual. "I belong in any room I enter." 15 years passed in the blink of a storyteller's eye. Marcus Johnson, now 21, stood in the grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, surrounded by celebrities and dignitaries gathered for a charity gala supporting children's education. The event, hosted by a foundation with an endowment of over $500 million, had brought together some of the most influential people in America. Marcus adjusted his bow tie, a small, nervous gesture that betrayed his amazement at finding himself in such surroundings. After graduating from Howard University with honors, he had established a non-profit organization dedicated to mentoring children in underserved communities, using his own story as a foundation for his work. The diamond-studded mirror Ali had given him as a child, now valued at nearly $50,000, sat in a display case in his office, a reminder of where his journey had begun. "Nervous?" asked the woman beside him, Alicia Stevenson, the billionaire tech entrepreneur whose donation had made his organization's expansion possible. "A little," Marcus admitted. "I still can't believe I'm speaking tonight," Alicia smiled. "I've heard you speak to those kids in your program. Trust me, this crowd will be easier." When his name was called, Marcus walked to the podium with the same quiet confidence he had cultivated since that summer day in Louisville. Looking out at the sea of faces, some famous, some powerful, all attentive, he took a deep breath and began. "My story starts with a question," he said. "A 6-year-old boy asked Muhammad Ali why God had made him different. The answer I received that day didn't just change my life, it saved it." As Marcus shared the details of his encounter with Ali, the ballroom fell silent. He described the tears in the champion's eyes, the wisdom in his words, and the impact of that moment on every day that followed. "What I didn't understand then," Marcus continued, "was that Ali was answering not just my question, but the same question he had asked as a child. The same question countless children who look like me have asked throughout history. And in answering me, he was healing something in himself." In the front row, An elderly man in a well-tailored suit listened intently, his once imposing frame now slightly stooped with age. Muhammad Ali, 75 years old and battling Parkinson's disease, had made the journey specifically for this event. Though his body had been diminished by time and illness, his eyes remained as bright and perceptive as they had been that day in Louisville. Today, through our mentorship programs, we've reached over 10,000 children, Marcus explained, each one asking their own version of that same question, each one receiving the answer I was fortunate enough to hear from the greatest himself. Different isn't bad. Different is valuable. Different is magnificent. As he concluded his speech, Marcus looked directly at Ali. Mr. Ali, you once told me that you were called the greatest because you believed it even when nobody else did. What you couldn't have known is how many others would find their own greatness because you believed in them too. The audience rose in a standing ovation, but Marcus's attention remained fixed on Ali. The champion's face was wet with tears, just as it had been 15 years earlier. But this time, they were tears of profound joy, of witnessing the full circle of impact, of seeing how a moment of vulnerability with a child had created ripples that continued to spread outward, touching countless lives. After the event, Ali approached Marcus slowly, his movements limited by his condition. The two embraced in silence, no words necessary between them. In that moment they were not celebrity and admirer, not legend and disciple, but simply two human beings, connected by a question that had changed both their lives. If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing, okay? I tell these stories with my heart in my hands to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who truly live. If this touched you, give back. Comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.